So today we're back to review Fast and Furious 6, obviously the 6th film in the franchise. After 5 was really good, I was hoping they'd keep the momentum for this, and they definitely did. This is not quite as good as 5, but definitely still really good, and they still keep up the momentum of having the big action scenes that now we know that people come to see these films for. The film follows on from the last one, in which Hobbs was introduced, played by The Rock. And Dom and the rest of the team got away with $100 million and were settling down for a quiet life, but obviously in this universe it's not going to last very long. In the sort of the post-credits scene, which I didn't spoil in the last review, we found out that Letty was still alive after being killed off in, I think, Fast and Furious 4, which is a shock, to be honest. I didn't know that she comes back. And in this one, Dom finds out from Hobbs that Letty is working with a group of mercenaries, and it's about them trying to get Letty back. In order to do this, they've got to team up against each other, and Hobbs has got to go against his sort of police mentality, and Dom has got to do what he said he'd never do and team up with the police. Like I initially said, this one is not as good as 5, but it's still actually really good. This one has got Luke Evans playing the main bad guy. And I actually think he's really good in this film. I've not seen him in a lot of films. I've only really properly seen him playing Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. But he is really good as a bad job of carrying on the legacy of the characters. So in this film, Brian has his child, I think Jack, they call the kid, which obviously raises the stakes, because now he's not just sort of, you know, doing all this for himself, he's doing it for his family, or his own family, as well as, you know, the family that they have. And Dom is obviously now doing this to try and get Letty back, because, you know, he's fought for the last 2 films that she was dead, and now he's got the opportunity to sort of carry on his life with her. So they do a really good job of, like I say, giving these characters motivations to go out and actually team up with Hobbs in this film. And they also go to London in this film, which is really funny, because they go to Waterloo Station. That was the station when I lived in London that I went to all the time. So it's funny being like, I swear I've been there, and they confirm it is that station. I thought, oh, you know, I'm not going mad, I actually do recognise where they are. So in keeping with the last film, this film also features lots of stunts. I guess they kind of have 2 actually really big stunts in this film. There's one point where they're driving along a motorway and they're trying to catch up with the bad guy, and he brings out a tank. You know, there's no way to really segue into that. Like, they think they're just chasing down this big sort of van, and a tank comes out of it and then starts shooting them. They're just chasing down this normal bad guy, and then he brings out a huge tank from the back of a van, and as you can imagine, it causes quite a lot of chaos. They're sort of on the motorway, and the tank is obviously shooting them and trying to run them over, and it's actually really good. It's actually a really good little sequence. It doesn't go on for too long either. It doesn't really drag, and there's a lot of comedy during that bit, because obviously, you know, a tank has just come out in full force, and that doesn't really make it a level playing field, because it's not just cars anymore. And at the end of the film, the big stunt is that there's a big jet plane trying to take off on the world's longest runway, with all of the bad guys in it, and Dom and Paul Walker and all of the other characters are trying to chase after it to stop it taking off with this chip that's worth billions. And that is just, that ending sequence is just absolute carnage. I think the highlight has to be when the plane blows up and Dom, or Vin Diesel, just walks out of the flame. Well, he drives out of the flames firstly in a car. So the car, you know, he literally just drives out of the flaming plane, and then he flips over and you think he might be dead, but and then he walks out of the fire like a superhero, and I just loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was so funny. It made me genuinely laugh. I just loved it. I just thought it was so funny. It's nice at the ending as well that they're all sort of back together as well. So I guess, more spoilers, they get the house back, because for the last few films they've been sort of on the run and having to evade cops and police and border patrol people. But they make a deal at the end with Hobbs that they get their original house back, which is quite cute, because he said that at the end and they had no idea what he was actually talking about. But it was lovely to see them have their little dinner all together and they say grace and they're obviously drinking all their Corona. This one does a really good job as well of establishing where all these films fit in a timeline. They have a sort of little montage at the beginnings where they sort of do the opening credits, where they kind of show the stuff that's happened in all of the films so far, which was actually really good. I quite enjoyed seeing, you know, the bits that you actually forget about, because, you know, I guess not for me, but for some people it's been like years since they've seen these early films. So it was a good little introduction. It's got a great little song over the top. So now we know, I guess spoilers, now we know that this one is set before Tokyo Drift, because at the end of this one, Han leaves the team and goes off to Tokyo, which is then obviously Tokyo Drift is the next one in the chronological order of Fast and Furious. Especially with this film, because obviously Fast 5 is drastically different to 4, but keeping the, you know, the heightened tension and the pace and the tighter storytelling with this one, it definitely sets a sort of precedent that, like, this is what these films are going to carry on to become, is the big action stunts and, you know, the more focused storytelling. Again, they're sort of shift away from kind of the traditional street racing, which again is in this, but similar to the last one, there's only one street race, and it's kind of not just sort of like a traditional, doesn't really mean anything street race. It's sort of used to kind of progress the story into a different little point, but it was still good. I don't think it was as good as the other films in terms of the racing, but, you know, it's got great stunts in it, and that's now what everybody comes to a Fast and Furious film to see. The family do take a loss, so Gal Gadot dies. At the end, they're trying to, her and Han, who are kind of a couple, they're trying to defeat one of the bad guys' henchmen, and she falls out of a car that's attached to an aeroplane onto a runway, and she falls quite a long way, so like she's going to be dead, because it's, yeah, she's falling at least sort of, you know, 30-40 feet. But I was quite sad to see her go, to be honest. I think she's been quite a good little addition, especially while Letty's been gone, to the team, and she kind of, you know, keeps them in check and she doesn't put up with their rubbish. And I quite like her, so I was quite sad to see her go, and, you know, I'm not going to cry at a Fast and Furious film, at least not yet. But she has had, you know, a lovely little relationship with Han, but, you know, her dying also then sets up him going to Tokyo, and then sets up Tokyo Drift, and he obviously dies in Tokyo Drift. But I actually, you know, I did really enjoy their relationship and her sort of humour with the other Roman and then Tej. They all sort of worked off each other quite well as kind of, you know, not the main characters, but sort of, you know, the rest of the team. So it was, you know, quite sad to see her go, but I guess Letty's come back to be kind of, you know, the girl in their team. Especially in this film as well, they also have a lot of cool cars. Like I said in the earlier ones, I'm not really into cars. But Luke Evans and the bad guys especially have these really, I don't even know how to describe them, to be honest. It's a car with like a metal cage and a ramp over the front, so almost like a battering ram. And I actually thought that was really clever. They have not really done anything with kind of, you know, I know they model their cars to have like the NOS and the speed and, you know, the extra V8s and whatever else, but they haven't actually kind of made the car something else apart from, you know, a car that goes fast. So I actually thought that was really cool, to have a car that, you know, in itself was a weapon, as well as, you know, the bad guys. So yeah, I thought they were really clever in how they used them in the film, to sort of, like I say, to be kind of battering rams and flip other cars over was really interesting, and really a good little idea and a good little invention. Like I say, they cramped the ridiculousness up to 11 in this film. You know, the last one they drove a safe across a motorway. This way they're fighting in midair but on a plane and on a runway. During the tank fight where Dom jumps out of a car to save Letty, who has come off of the tank. He grabs her in midair and lands on the windscreen of a car and is somehow fine. He goes quite a long way as well into this windscreen, and he sort of lands on it as if it was like a pillow, but I thought it was quite funny. This one had, like I said, this one had a lot of humour in it. The Rock literally makes a wrestling reference in it, which I quite appreciated. I thought that was quite amusing. This one is a little bit not quite as good as 5, but still really, really good. So I would probably put 5 as the best, then 6, then 2, then maybe 3, 1, 4. I still think 4 is the weakest so far. I think I'm looking forward to the next one. I think this is the one with Jason Statham in it. I'm not too sure. I know he's a bad guy in one of them. I'm not too sure if that's Fast 8 or Fast 7. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm pretty sure this next one is the last one with Paul Walker on it as well, because, you know, sadly he died. But so I can imagine this next one is going to be quite emotional, and, you know, might have a little cry. I've got no idea. I know they play that Wiz Khalifa song, but I've actually got no idea how it ends, and, you know, whether we're going to get a lovely little montage. But I'm quite excited to see how they actually wrap that storyline up. But yeah, that was my review of Fast and Furious 6. Not quite as good as 5, but still really, really, really good, and would definitely recommend. The same as 5 and how it could be its own standalone action film. I would recommend the same with 6. I think it really works well. But yeah, that was my review. I would probably give it about an 8 out of 10. Like I say, not quite as good as 5, but still really, really good. Definitely go and watch it. And I will see you for the next review for Fast 7. We're getting through these, we're nearly done. I will see you next time. Bye!